the annual, arbitration dance. The smart thing is when both sides realize, hey, we can find a figure to agree on. We don't have to take this to an arbitrator and, sort of create all these hard feelings. Tyler O'Neill made the huge mistake of doing that last spring, and it was one of the reasons why he got off to a lousy start and why, except for the month of August when he's healthy and he put up really, really good numbers, the really poor decision to take the arbitration fight to the Cardinals was in the mix when you consider some of the factors that just kind of took that season off the rails. I mean, the number one factor, of course, was just not being able to stay on the field, because I've done this study before. I'll tell you about it a little later. Not the whole study, just one example. But there's a correlation with Tyler O'Neill. Like, he's at his best as a performer the more he plays. I mean, all these injury interruptions really, really take down his appearance, his performance. He can't get in a groove. He can't stay consistent. When you look and you see his busiest months, and I'm not saying it's 100% of the time, but if you look at his busiest months, that's when his numbers are the best, simply because he's in reps, he's playing, he can find his comfort zone, he can build confidence, So I'm really glad, when he switched agents and went with Scott Boras last year, Scott Boras, who's an excellent agent, don't get me wrong, but I'm not saying that anybody who walks the face of the earth makes the right decision every single time, because we don't. But, Scott Boras kind of got Tyler O'Neill all fired up to take on the Cardinals, and Tyler O'Neill followed the advice, and it turned out to be a huge mistake. So the only reason why I'm bringing that up, Cardinals won the arbitration hearing anyway. So Tyler O'Neill signs today. There's no fuss. There's no disagreement. They're not respecting me. I'm going to fight him and arbitrate. No, there's none of that. He just politely, calmly, quietly signed a one-year deal worth $4.95 million. Now, you can all laugh at me later, but I look at that and I'm like, seeing his season is already off to a good start, and it is. So I'm already optimistic about him, because he's been working hard, really hard, and staying in St. Louis, working on it, his flexibility to reduce or to avoid all of these soft tissue injuries that prevent him from being as good as he should be, because he can't stay on the field. So just agreeing to this arbitration salary, I think, is a really good sign. Again, call me silly. It's okay. It just continues what has been a positive few months for Tyler O'Neill about doing things that to get him in the right frame of mind and to get him with a more flexible body that will cut down on injuries. I welcome both of these things, and both of these things can only help him. So it's good news, even though it's a relatively minor thing. I think it's really good news that he agreed to this without letting Boras, hit the button, to start bombing the Cardinals or whatever.
Last year was a disaster for him early on, and he admitted to that. And you talked about it, but like you said, you would hope they just looked at the numbers and said, "Okay, fine, let's move on. I have things to fix. If I fix them, I will make that over tenfold in my next contract, because I'll be a free agent and I'll be fine." He seems to be doing all the right things. And we had the audio when he was on with the guys from Hot Take Central. He's focused, and I gotta imagine he knows what's at stake here. He's not uneducated on where things are at. So I thought that was encouraging as well. And now we'll see when he gets to spring training. Hopefully we can get through spring training without too much noise about, he's sitting because of this or that. Or give him a week, he'll be fine. Just go out and see what he can be. Because if he ever is healthy for, let's just say, 145, 150 games, Bernie, he can put up some unbelievable numbers.
He can, and you got to clear your mind if you have a bad year. I think the first thing, bad year by your standards, if you clear your mind, first thing you got to do is, you have a bad or disappointing season. The first thing you got to do is clear your mind. And then we can't help notice also that Jack Flaherty signed a one-year deal, $5.4 million. He can become a free agent after the season. But again, Jack Flaherty has been, listen, they're entitled to battle the Cardinals. I'm not taking the Cardinals' side. Sometimes I'm just making the point that this stuff doesn't go so well for the player. And then the player gets his feelings all hurt and all that stuff, and he gets distracted. And Jack Flaherty has really enjoyed going to the mat to wrestle with the Cardinals. Like, he really gets excited about this arbitration stuff. Like, my opinion on him is he would rather take the Cardinals on than come to a reasonable compromise that benefits both sides. And last year, he won the arbitration battle with the Cardinals, and good for him, except then, of course, he had to follow that up by going on Twitter with his little emojis, basically boasting, bragging, whatever you want to call it, that he won it from the Cardinals. Well, okay. How about the pitching part, Jack? Let's win that. This year, though, he signed. That's, again, another good sign. I'm really glad that he did, instead of getting all caught up in the side issues. And, Jack, at some point, who I truly do respect and truly am rooting for, and I don't I don't really care what he does in terms of speaking out on different issues. But I thought it was just kind of silly for him to kind of like be taking a victory lap on Twitter. And his focus last year, and his focus should be 100% getting healthy, getting back to where he was, and having a great season, because the team will benefit and he will benefit. So along those lines, it was good to see him and his agent just sign a one-year deal instead of, deciding to like invade Ballpark Village with tanks or something. I don't know. Bad analogy, but you know what I'm talking about.
This is the one that surprised me the most, Bernie. Because I really thought, because when you see the list, you go, oh, that one's going to arbitration, and that one will get ugly. Because I really felt that we were going to end up with the similar arguments that we saw throughout the year. Well, they made the decision on what to do, and then the Cardinals, well, no, it's up to him to make the decision. It's just back and forth. I could see that one getting real ugly. It was refreshing to see they got done, because I don't want that to ruin what could be a really good year if he's healthy, but that one surprised me more than anything, because I was really expecting the worst.
And the other arbitration signings, Jordan Montgomery, 1 year, $10 million. Good for him. We mentioned O'Neill. We mentioned Flaherty. Tommy Edman, 1 year, $4.2 million, because he's earlier in the arbitration stage than some of these other guys. That's why his salary's lower. Dakota Hudson, 1 year, $2.65 million. Good luck to him. Andrew Kisner, 1 year, $1.1 million. Good for him. And the Cardinals, here we go again. This is something that's just like really stupid, and it's not really Ryan Helsley. So I guess they couldn't agree to a term on a 1 year contract with him, Ryan Helsley, or Genesis Cabrera. And so they have not avoided arbitration, although it's still possible for Helsley and Cabrera to agree to terms before it gets to the stage where they have to go to arbitration. And if you're Genesis Cabrera, who was literally and factually and statistically one of the worst relievers in the major leagues last year, and you couldn't control your emotions or frustrations, you had an ERA of nearly 11 runs in September. I don't think that probably going to help to, take the Cardinals to arbitration and duke it out. I don't think that's where the mind should be right now. Anyway.
Yeah, that one's frustrating. You almost want to knock on the door or send a message, go, hey, you have nothing to stand on. Just take the money and see if you can be healthy.
Andrew McCutchen, I like this, returning to the Pirates on a 1 year deal. I like that a lot. He should finish his career there, and he still can play some. He doesn't embarrass himself, but he still can play some. So I like that a lot. The Reds have signed former Cardinal Luke Weaver to a 1 year, $2 million major league contract. I wish Luke well, but what has he pitched since the Cardinals traded him to the Diamondbacks? And I'm being facetious. He's pitched like 3 games or something? I don't know. I don't know what's there anymore, but good luck to him. When I say that, I'm not being dismissive. I mean it. Good luck to him. Hey, there was a story that made me laugh this morning when I got up, started doing my reading. Story in The Athletic about the pitch clock. that's coming into play in 2023. And you got Scott Boras in there telling The Athletic that, hey, reminding everyone that the players are against the pitch clock anyway, but Major League Baseball had more people on the committee to vote for it. So the pitch clock and other rules are going into place. But Boras is saying, no, there should not be a pitch clock in the postseason. It's the big moment. They need time to reflect. They need more time. It's a different scenario than the regular season. We do not want their performances rushed. And he said he understood why it makes sense in the regular season, even though the players don't like it. Efficiency of the game. The Major League Baseball thinks it's a fan-positive move to shorten games. I understand. But in the postseason, Boras said, we don't want these men in a completely different emotional environment where the settings mean so much more and where all their work and effort, all their goals are achieved. At this level, we want these men to have the appropriate time. Pitchers and position player to evaluate and move forward and be most prepared and directed. So I'm reading this and I'm like, well, first of all, no one's going to change the rules because you're kvetching about it and hollering. So move on. The rules are in place and Manfred and his fellows are going to go along with it. So you keep reading the story and Theo Epstein comes in because he is an advisor on all these rules changes and has really been an active participant in the process. And I really like Theo, by the way. I mean, I don't care. He's a Cubs general manager and they were better than the Cardinals for a while. I mean, I think Theo Epstein's been a brilliant guy and he's a forward-thinking guy. But I didn't know about this. This is kind of the crux of the matter, so I don't even know why Boras is squawking, only because he thinks he can squawk whenever he wants, which he can, and he'll always have the platform to do it. So Epstein, in this Athletic story, he drops into the conversation that there are, quote, safeguards built into the rules to make sure that the games aren't decided in a late and close situation by a pitch timer violation. So check this out, Jim and everyone. Quote, every hitter has a timeout each and every plate appearance. Where if the game's going too fast, you need a little more time, you can simply call timeout and gather your thoughts and reset the timer that way. Number 2, quote, when there are runners on base, every pitcher can step off twice per plate appearance and reset the clock and gather their thoughts and move forward. And then you get two more instances where you're allowed to step off the mound and just sort of reset yourself. You get 2 more if a runner advances. So he mentions there are already 5 mound visits during the course of the game, and you're guaranteed to have 1 in the 9th inning and 1 in the extra inning. You can stop the clock. And there are, quote, discretion with umpires under certain circumstances where the umpire can afford the players more time to avoid a situation where it's inappropriate to have the clock dictate a ball or strike or decide a game. So if you're following all that, in other words, there's really not a pitch clock. I mean, this is so preposterous that if I'm aware that there is an idiot running the sport, so I shouldn't be surprised. But what is the point to doing all this when the hitter can call timeout whenever the hell he wants, where the pitchers can step off the mound at their discretion, and when they have people on base, or they can actually step off the mound anyway. And if a runner moves up on them, so where, in other words, now maybe he's in scoring position, you get a chance to step off the mound twice more. And the umpires can step in and just say, well, I don't want to rush these guys. It's a big spot, What is the point of having a pitch clock? What is the point?
As you describe it, I'll be honest, I was not aware of the extra timeout.
I wasn't either. No, I'm like, not until this morning.
Like, okay, so we got timeouts for things, and as you're going through it and reading it to me, I'm going, well, the umpire's discretion could be 1,001 things. So, like you're saying, the reality is, you need a timeout, just ask the ump. The bug's in my eye. It's raining. I got rain in my face. Anything. You could come up with 1,000 things to slow this thing down back to a snail's pace. I was not aware of those rules. And it's going to be an interesting watch from a baseball fan standpoint because it'll even take me time to figure out just some kind of rhythm in the game with these things and how that will affect things. Look, I love it when a guy gets the ball and throws. I think that at some points it might be more detrimental to hitters because I think most pitchers, especially the guys who are coming up from the minors from a year ago, they're used to it. They had it last year. Get the ball and throw. I think it will affect hitters more than it will pitchers.
Just so I was clear, I don't want to confuse people because there was a lot there. The pitcher can only step off, but twice when there are runners on base. I can't step off from what is in this story when the bases are empty. But still, okay, you get a runner on first or a guy doubles or whatever it may be. Why should you get the chance to step off? Why don't you pitch? Why don't you compete? Why do you want to be babied anyway? I don't want to hurry.
Uh-huh.
There's a runner on first. I don't want to hurry. I need to reset.